One of the most striking things when I looked at your work is there's one image that stands out in the Suicide Machine,
Yeah.
and it's a quote really, and it's and the quote is, "Happiness is something to love, something to do, and something to hope for."
Oh, is this the picture with it's cracked in half?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I kind of thought that that particular image sort of summed up Suicide Machine in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Tell me about the project.
Well, basically, that picture was one of the earliest pictures that I took. When the kind of synopsis wasn't that clear, and I was still kind of, trying to fill in the gaps when writing it, and that went round to my ex-girlfriend's house, strangely enough, because we were still friendly, and she was going through a tough time, and we went out the back for a cigarette, and this was just on the wall. I said, I really need to photograph that, and she didn't really understand what the point of it was, but anyway, took the shot, and it escalated from there. It kind of gave me direction then of what the kind of what I wanted to kind of touch on with Bridgend, and what was the whole overall feeling of just the people, and just everything really. All I wanted to encompass. It's really hard to kind of hit the nail on the head, but I really wanted to find out what Bridgend was like from an outsider's point of view, I suppose, and give an honest portrayal of what it was like, and because it's easy to walk around your town and kind of just not see what's in front of you, basically. So, I did a lot of walking around and a lot of looking just to see what people are missing, whether it be rubbish or graffiti. I didn't want to be too cynical, so I've tried to take a lot of the shots during nice weather. For example, it'd be easy to go out on a rainy day and make it look, double awful. But so I wanted to just take the shots on a nice day. So it was kind of...
The title is very interesting, and Suicide Machine. I mean, suicide. And the whole emotive thing about Bridgend being a sort of, because part of the instigation to do the project was that you met a guy, or somebody said when they saw it on your passport, that's Suicide Town.
Yeah, yeah.
But Suicide Machine, very emotive title.
Well,
was that a deliberate thing on your part? Yeah.
Well, it was a song on an album years ago called Suicide Machine. So I kind of made the connection there, and I thought, is Bridgend, is it a suicide machine? I've taken a lot of stick for the title. I've had a few people on Twitter saying, whoa, no, that's just not right. And I said, well, the project isn't directly about suicide or the suicides. Mm. It's about the kind of the state of the town and where it's headed and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I did take some stick over the title, but I stuck with it. I did stick a question mark after it at one point, and I was talking to a friend, and this particular friend, he'd had a suicide in his family, so I thought there was no better person to talk to. I'm saying, are you offended by the title? Should have put a question mark in the end. He said, absolutely not. He said, suicide has always been glamorized. That's what I got accused of initially, was glamorizing suicide. Mm. He said suicide has been glamorized, for decades, rock stars and what have you. He said, leave it. He said, doesn't offend me. Don't put a question mark on the end. Just leave it as it is. So I did. But I can still sense that the people of Bridgend don't really like it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it touches a nerve or whatever, but I'm going to stick with it.
So your your square mile is important to you then.
Oh yeah,
I get
absolutely.
that. I get that impression from a lot of your work is that you talk about a house that you lived in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you said as well that looking is an important factor
Yeah.
in getting what you want, and so there's an element of psychogeography, and I think this is a theme that's running through all the conversations we're having
Yeah.
with photographers. That place and time is an important factor in everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to, when I first started enjoying photography, I used to be obsessed with strangers and street photography and maybe stopping people for a street portrait. But as I got older, I think that the things around me seem to matter a bit more. So I'm taking pictures of people I know or people I sort of know, it doesn't bother me, the whole stranger thing anymore. So I've just decided to record what's important to me, basically, and help me decide to make some decisions for the future, really. So
What sort of decisions then?
I don't know. Well, we've tied with the idea of basically just bailing out of Bridgend because Kate's from Preston, and she's lived abroad. She's lived in Chile and Shanghai. So when she first moved to Bridgend 6 or 7 years ago, she found adjusting really hard to come from, Santiago in Chile to Bridgend. And it was kind of like, she'd lost her whole circle of friends. Her parents are in Preston, 250 miles away. So watching her kind of try to adjust and listen to her say what's wrong with Bridgend has made me kind of open my eyes, because she loves Bridgend. She'll admit there's worse places than this. We've got the coast, we've got the valleys. It's beautiful, but there's the town centre's pretty soulless these days. But there's so many places like that.
Yeah,
it just seems to be an ongoing pattern of towns like this. They're surrounded by supermarkets, and they're pretty much doomed.
Yes. Well, another interesting feature of your suicide project was the fact that looking at the pictures at each, and I think it's a feature of your work, is that each picture tells a story, and that's something that takes a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
Do you explicitly go out to tell a story with each picture, or are you more looking on a wider, broader scale with your art?
That's a great question, actually. I suppose I do want each picture to tell some sort of story, and there is some sort of metaphor behind each photograph, if you like. The majority, some of them are aesthetic, obviously, and they still fit into the project. But there's definitely hidden metaphors and stories within each picture, I'd say.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I do, I will kind of drive around and on a reconnaissance, and then when the sun is in the right place, I'll go back there then, and sometimes several times, just to get it right. But yeah, I think it's important for each picture to have some sort of depth to it. Absolutely, yeah.
Are you going to publish? Are you going to make a book out of it?
I would love to, but whether that will happen is another thing. I couldn't afford to self-publish. It would be nice if a publisher became interested in it. I'd be kind of, go for it. But we'll see. I'm gonna try and work on it for another 2 years and kind of go through a strict editing process then and see what we come up with.
You remind me of another photographer, a great friend of mine, Dewi Glyn-Jones from North Wales. He's a great storyteller with pictures. And there are two actually from that project. There's the crashed car, which I find is a really phenomenally good picture.
Yeah, I know the one.
And the picnic as well. The picnic, the little family having a picnic.
Yeah.
It's kind of those things and I find that ability to tell a story with a picture, because I'm always looking for stories to tell.
Yeah.
Because I think a photograph has to be more I don't know whether that's because of the way I think, but it has to be more than just a picture.
A picture, yeah, I understand that. Yeah, there's that. You know, you look at some of the greats, and there's always a depth to their photos, and whether it be, you know, something in every inch of the frame, or whether there's a some sort of hidden metaphor, you know, and you know, it's important, I think.
So that takes me back to when you started as a photographer, and
right?
When you were doing the stuff with skateboarders.
Yeah.
Now, was that the key that opened the door to tell the stories at a later time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because well, I grew up skateboarding, and you know, from the mid '80s, I suppose, and then kind of it fizzled out in about 1991, 92. But then in about 95, 96, I went back to it. And of course, it was some of the older generation of boys were still amongst it, but there was a new generation, and it was a breath of fresh air. So I was about 21 at the time, so although I was still enjoying skateboarding, I knew that I had to kind of set myself up for a time when it couldn't be done anymore. But I also enjoyed photography. Only a kind of point and shoot. I would take it everywhere and just point and shoot.
What camera were you using?
At the time, I think it was a Panasonic, just 35mm point and shoot.
All right.
My brother he had just bought an SLR, a Minolta. He said, "Oh, you buy yourself an SLR now." So he went to the camera shop and picked one up for me. And that was it. It was a Minolta 5000.
Oh gosh, I had one of those.
And it was, and he got me a Casina 17 to 35, so it was wide.
Yeah.
And that was it. I just couldn't get enough of it then. And you know, I made so many mistakes, but as you do, you know, but I was really enjoying it, and some of the pictures were coming out, and yeah, they're fond memories, absolutely. But the storytelling thing, maybe I fell into it by accident, to tell the truth. Started just taking photos of what was happening around me, and then before you know it, when you put it all to the body of work together, there's a huge theme with the story of just this group of boys growing older together, you know. Still riding around on skateboards, which I'm occasionally still known to do as a 40-year-old.
There's been some interesting stuff, because all these town centres now, there's I can't remember the name of the photographer, but he publishes stuff, and he did a series about all the bits of metal they now put on things to stop people from skateboarding.
Oh, this is Mark Valley.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Mark.
Yeah.
And skate stoppers.
That's right, yeah.
And incredibly, the story of the skate spotter was a skateboarder invented it.
Good gracious.
Yeah, I'm sure it was down to a professional skateboarder called Ken Park, an American guy, and he came up with the concept of the skate stopper, which is, there's some sort of irony, double irony in there. But yeah, thanks a lot, Ken Park. But yeah, I suppose they do cause damage, you know. If you got, there's nothing better for a skateboarder to see a nice fresh marble block and rub some wax along it, and then start chipping bits off it with your skateboard, so you can understand. But yeah, that was a great project by Mark. Yeah.
But it's obvious the love you had for the sport comes through in the photographs.
Yeah. Like, you know, I felt as though, you know, I could go, because I was close with the boys. They were the same group of boys. I could get in as close as I wanted, and they were just so used to me being there. You could fire a flash 6 inches from their face, and they wouldn't care, you know. So it was just really good times, the skateboarding, and they kind of, it's there's an argument whether it's a sport or not, but there's definitely that element to it. But there's no one kind of telling you what you can and can't do, you know. So there's this kind of edge to it all, really. And some of the boys are just absolutely wild, wild men. And unique, I suppose. That's for sure. But that's what I kind of liked about it the most. Was there was no kind of organization there, no one telling you what to do, and in a way you were kind of sticking it to the man. It was just, especially Bridgend, because we went for years. They wouldn't build us a skate park, and there's not even an acceptable one here now, all these years later. So take that, Bridgend Council. I swear I'm at war with the council of this town.
So that counterculture really important to you, I guess, then?
Yeah. Well, we talk about the kind of the different aspects of skateboarding all the time. As you get older, you kind of tend to talk about it and watch it a bit more. So I think you can go anywhere in the world almost, and you'll see a gang of skateboarders in the Western world. Anyway, I should say, even though it's spreading further east. But you can go anywhere, and this subculture exists everywhere, and it's fascinating. It is like some sort of brotherhood, I suppose, and yeah, it's great.
You've travelled a bit as well.
Yeah. I went through a phase of around 2007 to 2010. Kind of had some savings out. I thought, I've got to get out of here for a bit. I met Kate in Shanghai.
All right, okay.
And when I was over there, and yeah, we went to South America together, India, Nepal, Vietnam. Just brilliant. I think about it every day, especially South America. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But, once you do that to yourself, you just get the itchy feet every day then. And the furthest we've gone since we've had the little one is we took it to Paris, and we've been to Barcelona, which is, it's okay. We love Barcelona, so I'll accept that.
You still shoot on film?
Yeah.
We live in a maelstrom of digital.
I knew this was coming.
No, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way as well. I know. But because it's interesting. It kind of takes me back because my roots are kind of in that area as well.
They would be, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Although I haven't been a professional photographer all my life.
Yeah.
And I still have rolls of film because I still do take photographs on 120 film with a medium format camera, nice. Which I find
you can't beat it.
you can't beat the process and the time it takes in order to do it.
These have been sitting up here now for weeks.
Isn't it? But isn't it a strange thing? Because when I used to take 35mm stuff, I used to have rolls of 35mm on the shelf, and it would take me ages to get them done.
Yeah, it does.
I think, is that part of the process, you reckon?
Yeah, you learn to become patient, and I almost forget about them, and I'm like, oh, great! I've got like 6 rolls of film up there that need developing. I wonder what's on them, kind of. I know that 2 of those, I've no idea what's on them. So, and that's the Suicide Machine project. So that should be interesting. Because I'm not one to really waste film when it comes to shooting the Suicide Machine project, because it costs me so much money to get them developed and scanned, etc. But so it's nice to just forget what you've taken. I see so much chimping going on, and I've been, if I ever shoot digital, that's what you do straight away. You take a picture, you look at the back, and everyone does it, but it's nice. I read a quote once that with digital photography you're looking at the last shot, but with film you're looking for the next shot, which is, I thought that kind of made sense to me, and it's kind of, you shoot a picture on film and it's like on to the next thing, because you've no idea whether you've done it right until you get them back. So yeah, I've never made the transition to digital. I've just always shot film. The digital camera we've got is Kate's, and occasionally I'll take some baby photos or a little commission here and there, and I'll do it on digital, but I don't own a digital camera. Apart from this little Canon, that's mine. This has been great, by the way. So yeah, it's film all the way. So
and I can see on the shelf behind you 2 Leicas M6s.
Yeah. Well, that's an MP and that's an M6. This was my first one. The first Leica I bought in 2003, and that's got sentimental value. But I still use it. I still use them both, and I alternate colour and black and white because I like to shoot some colour. 35, but basically, I just use them for snapshots these days. There's no, unless I'm doing some work on the skateboard project, which I don't really do a lot of these days, but I still use them all the time.
It's interesting though that people, I mean, using film, I was looking through stuff I shot when I was 18 last night. Yesterday. And I've got a stack of books with loads of negatives.
Yeah, I bet.
Loads.
I know the feeling.
Loads of negatives. And I was looking at the stuff, and some of it is scratched, but it does have something special about it. It's like going to the cinema as well, because I miss the little dot that used to come up in the corner.
Yeah.
And the flicker, just this ever so slight flicker of things.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I kind of miss that. Everything's too clean.
Yeah, it is. I suppose that's what I don't like about digital. That, as great as it is, and I can appreciate that, everything looks too sharp and perfect. I do like the kind of characteristics of film, and and you're not quite able to predict what it's going to come out like. And I really do like that. And I also like about film is that you hold the negative in your hand, and that negative was there at the time. It saw that exact scene, and it's something you can hold. It's not a kind of digital file. It's just that has been there with you.
Yeah,
and I kind of like that.
Yeah, because the worrying thing about digital, and I'm sure you would agree and concur with me, is that it's ephemeral. It's just ones and zeros.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It doesn't have a physicality about it, and very few people actually print stuff.
Well, that's another great point. The art of printing is almost completely dead. It's shocking. As I say, I still shoot rolls of colour film. I'll take them to Boots and have a set of prints, either whether they be of the baby or the dog. Still got them. And they're going to last a lifetime. So I think it's really important, but people just don't print their photographs. In 40 years' time, they won't be able to go and get that suitcase of photographs from the top of the wardrobe and look through them all, because they won't be there. What will they do? Go through an old hard drive or something?
Well, they probably won't be able to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting thing. I have a theory about photography and analog photography, and the gatekeepers to analog photography. The gatekeeper to analog photography in my family is my mother.
Okay.
She keeps a box, and she has albums.
Yeah.
Which she writes, which is really good. That she writes who the people are, etc.
That's important.
And it's really important. So
I need to start doing more of that.
That's an interesting thing, because you find, and one of the saddest things going around, like car boot sales or whatever, or flea markets, and you find boxes of photographs, and they belonged to somebody.
Someone's life is just in a shoebox, and it's almost heartbreaking. Someone gave me a box of negatives and photographs last year, And when Kate and I went through them on the light box upstairs, they were literally a whole this little girl from the moment she was born all the way up to when she was in her mid-20s. Just a whole box of this life. Yeah. And it turned out that she was either the daughter of the guy who founded the Scouts. What was his name? Baden Powell?
Good gracious me.
Yeah, so this we're not quite sure of the connection yet, but we do need to kind of look at them a bit closer and maybe start scanning some of them, but we're going to get round to that one day. But and you're wondering that there must be someone related that would have wanted all this, but it's ended up in my hands.
Yes.
And it's such a shame.
Yeah, going back to the film stuff, I'm a great fan of Philip Jones Griffiths. And I bought his book, the retrospective book, the other day, and I always wanted to own a copy of it. But you look at the stuff, and it ain't sharp.
Well, it isn't, is it? No.
But what is really crucial about it is the light.
Yeah. And you can there's been a lot of work done on those in the darkroom, and you can see that in them, and it's just really, oh God, it's hard to explain. The impact of those shots is just amazing. There's just, you obviously had his exposures right, which is quite important. Yeah. But yeah, Philip Jones Griffiths, yeah, what an important man. Yeah, the world lost a good one a few years ago when he passed away. But yeah, I often look at my Vietnam ink book, and you couldn't imagine what it was to be like to be in some of those positions. It was terrifying.
No, indeed.
And it's the same with Don McCullin. We saw the documentary in Chapter. Was it last year?
Oh, I was probably in the same room.
Oh, right, yeah, you probably were. And God, the weight those guys must carry, you can see it in Don McCullin's face almost, can't you? That he carries it around every day. And what I found fascinating with Don McCullin, sorry, I'm probably going off the subject.
No, that's okay.
Is that I was fascinated because he started shooting landscapes then.
Yes.
And I bought his landscape book after seeing that documentary. I was just fascinated of these beautiful landscapes, but he'd printed them so dark. And there was just... The only difference was there was just no kind of bodies lying on the road and burnt out tanks. And I'm sure there's some kind of transitional therapy for him to just come from what he has seen into this. And I'm sure it acts as a therapy for him. I just can't imagine it. I try to put myself in that position sometimes. It's like... Well, Bridgend Town Centre on a Saturday night is pretty similar, apparently.
Do you regard yourself as an urban photographer rather than...
I don't really like the term urban.
No, I don't. But do you... I mean...
There is such a thing, though, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah. I suppose, yeah, I'd fall under that kind of category. Yeah, definitely. I suppose I like to do a bit of everything, really. I've always been a bit like that. I can't just stick to one thing. I like to shoot the odd landscape or... a bit of street photography or, some thematic stuff. I'll just shoot anything. I just love photography.
Are you self-taught?
Yeah, predominantly.
Right.
Because I did, in the beginning, in the early years, I did go on a how to use your camera course, which was a few weeks in the local college. And that helped. That was great. And my teacher, Clive... has passed away now, but what a character. He wasn't the best photographer himself, but he knew how to teach photography and how to use a camera, and he was really kind of quite passive-aggressive, really. Especially when people would bring this stuff in to show him, and he would just shoot them down in flames, and I liked him for that. He was always terrified to bring stuff in to show him. But yeah, that's the only bit of education, I suppose.
Yeah, showing your material when you first start is really quite difficult.
Yeah.
I found that difficult.
Yeah, because you don't know whether you're doing it right, and you show it to someone with a bit of credibility. You know they're going to find the faults in it, so but you learn from that, obviously.
This will bring you to Elvis.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I've never actually shot the Elvis. I've never been to. I've been tempted to go to Porthcawl.
It's scary.
It's
Especially at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when it kind of darkens. Believe me.
So how have you shot it every year?
Yeah, for about the last 5 years. I decided to draw the line this year, but I'm going to go back down there this year. I can't leave it go on without me. No way.
Do you wear a wig as well?
Maybe this year would be a good idea to just get involved. But I tried to kind of be all stealth and sneak about, but it's something else. It really is. You kind of go round by the pavilion and that kind of area. It's quite civilized, but once you get down to where the fairground is and the high tide, that's where the best people are. So I kind of tend to go and hang around there. It's brilliant. You'll see some sights. But I think it's a great thing. I really do, and the amount of people that turn up for it, I just get really excited about it every year.
And the other thing about doing something often, I guess, because I go to a boxing club up the valleys.
Oh, right, okay.
Often.
Yeah.
But getting to know how it all works.
Yeah.
And I think that's crucial to being a photographer. I don't
You
know
can
if you
anticipate things then, and yeah. You know, you learn to predict what's going to happen and that type of thing. So yeah, the amount more times you go back to something, the better it's going to be, I suppose. Yeah.
So you've been to Iceland.
Yeah.
Does every photographer have to go to Iceland?
I think so. It's, you know, I'm sometimes I try not to even say it these days because everyone's been there, haven't they? So, well, we're going again in March, just my brother and I, and there's something about that country. You know, you know, you couldn't go there and shoot street photography or anything like that. It's because there's literally nothing there. It's completely, once you get outside the towns, there's nothing. And I think that's what I like about it. There's this kind of magic tingle in the air that brings you back. Last year, I said to my brother, I said, that's it, because I'm never coming here again. It was too expensive. That was my third visit last year, and I was like, that's it, I'm done with Iceland. Because the last night, we went to wash the hire car, and I went to pay, and it was £12.50 to wash the car. I said, right, that is it. I'm done with Iceland. And then a few months later, my brother is, are we going to Iceland then? Oh, yeah, okay.
Icelandic landscapes. Interesting. How do you approach, because you've been more than once to Iceland? But the latest stuff you've done that's on your website, perhaps.
The Icelandic landscapes was, you know, the first couple of times I'd been to Iceland, everyone does the kind of blocks of ice on the beach and the icebergs floating in the sea. So for me, I wanted to show people what Iceland really looked like when you got out past the tourist areas. And to me, that encapsulates exactly what Iceland looks like. Because people see these kind of tremendous photos of the northern lights with icebergs, and it's not all like that, that's for sure. There's a lot of grimness there and just bleak nothingness, which is fabulous in a way. It all came back to the first time we went to Iceland, a friend and I, in 2007, and we spent the whole time, we couldn't afford a hotel, so we slept in the hire car in January now. This is it was a good idea at the time. So we slept in the hire car, and it was completely empty that time of year, you know, mid-January. And we were in the south, we were driving past what we looked to be this strange landscape, and we were like, what is that? My friend was like, it's a glacier. I was like, wow, we got to go up to that. So we turned off the road and we drove literally a mile over kind of this mad ground, which we shouldn't have probably done in an estate car. I think it was 4x4 only, but we went anyway. We parked up, then we had to cross these kind of black sand dunes that took about 3/4 of an hour. Then we got to the other side of them, and there was you could see this glacier in the distance. And we had literally just jumped out of the car and hadn't put our jackets on. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll be there and back. Anyway, it took us, you know, when something is really far in the distance and you're walking towards it and it's not getting any closer. Well, this is exactly what's happening. So we're walking. We crossed four, I think, frozen rivers. So it took 2 hours to walk there so we got there, just the most eeriest place I've ever been. Just this howling wind. And we were like, God, it was just unreal. It just looked so different from when we were 2 miles away or a couple of miles away to when we were at everything looked black and gnarled and just incredible. You know, not a soul of anyone anywhere. So we started walking. We said, "Oh, we better get out of here," because like it was 2:00 and it got dark at about 4, or started getting dark. So we started walking back. We need to take a few pictures. We stopped by this like frozen. It wasn't a lake. It was just an oversized pond of just runoff glacial water, and that was behind me. And then there was this big chunk of ice about the size of a house. And my friend's like, "Oh, take a photo of me next to this ice." So I was fiddling around with the camera, and all of a sudden, just a pebble went poof, landed over my head and skimmed across the ice. And I looked at him. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, I didn't do that." I said, "Seriously?" And while we were bickering, it was like, poof, and we both looked again. I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I don't know, let's go." So we basically started full trot. Black clouds came in, it started hammering down. We were there with just shirts on. Over the frozen rivers, across this landscape, over the black dunes. It was hammering down with rain. We got over the black dunes. Where's the car? It should be there. We're like, we'd gone in a straight lines and we'd walked back in a straight line. Car wasn't there. I was like, well, surely no one could have nicked it. There's no one within 50 miles of this area. So we went down. We walking round with the binoculars out. We couldn't, just nothing. The car. I said, this landscape just looks completely different. With, where's the car? So we were walking. He was in a real grump with me now because he was about 40 yards in front, marching, looking for the car. It's like, there's no point. I don't know where it's gone. She said it was literally getting dark now because the light is strange over there anyway, like subdued. So he said, I'm going to climb to the top of that hill and have a look. So there was nothing else to do. We'll have to do it. So we climbed up to the top of this like black cliff thing, you could climb up. And we got to the top and you could just see the silver estate car in the distance, literally 3/4 of a mile away. And we were just like, oh my God. Got there, drove out, and then we were kind of like, well, who's throwing stones at us? So we got the Lonely Planet out, and there was a whole section of Hulderfolk. I was like, Hulderfolk? And it was kind of like, they live in the desolate regions of Norway, like 80% of the Icelanders believe in them, and they can play tricks on you, and they're pretty harmless, but they will kind of mess with your head, especially if you're, and make you lose your bearings and anything like that. I've seen, oh my God, this sounds so strange. And that was it, basically. So I decided to did a bit of research on Hulderfolk, and it's quite a strong thing over in Iceland. So so that's where I thought the photos are based on a strong belief of the Hulderfolk and where they might reside. Because apparently, if they're building a road and there's a Hulderfolk story involved of some area, they'll make a bend in the road to go round it and all sorts. It's incredible. But something that day was throwing stones at us in the middle of the wilderness. And cause I keep telling people that, and they go, oh, maybe someone walking their dog. And it's like, oh, if I could only just show you where we were, there was no one there. No one.
So are you going to, when you go back to Iceland, are you going to develop this idea a little further?
Yeah, I'll take a few more. Landscape shots and try and bulk it out a bit. But even the last time we went, I always tell my brother this story, and he's got the actual footage on YouTube. We went to a glacier, again, no one around, no other cars in the car park, and he was standing on the edge of the glacial pool, and he kicked some rocks down. As he did that, someone the other side went, "Roar!" We were like, what was that? He's like, someone just shouted at me. No one there. And he's got it on you. It's on YouTube, that is. You can just faintly hear the voice.
Good gracious me.
But there's something going on in Iceland, and it's really odd, these things.
Yeah.
But the stone thing was just, we couldn't find any kind of plausible explanation really for that. People say, oh, maybe they just rolled. I said, nah, when you throw a stone across ice, it was literally like that. Like, so, Hulderfolk.
We've got George skimming across the George the dog, by the way, for all you people.
Sorry.
Here he comes again. Hello, George.
Ffoton, that's going to pick every sound up. Well, sorry that went on a bit long. Anyway,
no, that's a fascinating
that was the summarised
story.
version as well, because. But
it's interesting that you divert away from that cliche. You don't like cliches, do you?
Not at all. And I suppose in the beginning everyone kind of falls into them, but they kill me. Cliches do, and. I usually do something at least once. So once the whole ice blocks on the beach had been done, I just had to do something else. And it satisfies my own kind of curiosity then as well,
Is your brother a photographer?
Yeah, he's... Well, in this area, he's quite a well-known landscape photographer, and he's good.
Right.
And he sells lots of stuff, Unlike me, he kills me in that market. He gives the people what they want, just local scenes done well. So, full respect to him for that, because, I always say to him, you've sold your soul, but... he's the one reaping in the rewards, that's for sure.
So how... I don't, maybe it's but I am going to ask you. Maybe I shouldn't, but you can tell me to go away from it. How do you make your money then?
Oh God, I don't make any money. I used to kind of... I used to get at least 2 or 3 photography jobs a month, going back a few years. Always guaranteed. Dan, we'll do some shots of the kids, or... come and take some photos of our work we've been doing recently, blah, blah, blah. Now, nothing at all, because there's so many people with a camera out there. So I've basically knocked commercial photography on the head completely. I get asked to do weddings, and we did one a few months ago, and I just keep saying, that's it, no more. But that really was it at that time, because I just...
Yeah,
Can't bear it.
weddings. Yeah, I've only done 4 weddings ever.
Yeah.
And I've done them for friends, but they've always been really hard, really difficult,
So difficult.
and there's a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, God.
And I photograph them reportage. I don't do setups, but invariably when you turn up to do it, they want setups because
Of course they do. Yeah.
change the goalposts
Yeah.
because they know what their family require.
That's it.
So a difficult one, and I try and avoid them. Although I had to do one for a friend again, and then it's all the editing that goes with it and shoveling through.
That's the hard part.
But were you doing it on film?
I've shot them on film. We usually do it. The last 3 or 4 we've done it as a partnership because Kate, she's pretty handy with a camera.
Yeah.
So she'll do the digital and I'll do the black and white on film. So she'll take 1,000 photos and I'll take like 3 or 4 rolls of film. So, and then they want black and white enlargements, and it's just it's not worth it, to tell the truth. I'm probably losing out, especially with film is £7 a roll these days, more or less. And so I'm done with that, and I don't miss commercial photography at all, but the money was nice. So basically, go back to your original question, I'm the stay-at-home dad these days, while Kate is the breadwinner. But I do actually work 2 days a week for my dad, who's got a shop in town. So that's my pocket money to buy books and stuff. Books and film.
Do you have ambitions as a photographer?
I don't know. Kate asked me this just before Christmas. What do you expect to get out of photography? I'm like, I don't really know. I just enjoy it, and I need it. If I don't, I explained this to her. I said, if I don't do it, then I don't know what I would do. I just need to just shoot. Yeah. There's not many days I can go without taking a picture. Yeah. I'd like, eventually, I'd like, a book would be nice, just to say, this is mine. But if it doesn't happen, so be it. I'll still shoot forever, I think. I'll never get bored of it. I've been shooting constantly now for 20 years, just constantly. And I would have got bored of it by now, I think. But,
so you have a huge body of work then.
yeah, there's so much stuff up there in the darkroom, and so unorganized. The negative sheets are all in baskets, so every time I need to find a negative, if I do sell a print, I have to go through everything on the light box. But the joy of that is that sometimes I'll see other things in there as well. So that's why I've never changed the process of going through them, because I don't mind it.
So do you do computer? Once you've scanned them, do you do Lightroom work on them, or do you use that, or are you all the stuff is done in the darkroom?
The black. Well, lately, because of paper, darkroom paper has been so expensive. You're talking £50, I think, for a box of 100 sheets of 8x10, where they used to be 20. £20. So I've started scanning a lot more, and when you scan black and white negatives, they're so nice. Sometimes you can't get a print in the darkroom because of a dodgy negative. Yeah. You scan it and it's perfect. Yeah. So I've started scanning a lot more and not printing as much. But now, when I go into the darkroom to do a print, I kind of enjoy it more, because I used to print almost absolutely everything. Anything that was okay, I'd print it. Yeah. But now I'll scan it and do a lot of scanning. But just for the record as well, I don't own a copy of Photoshop or Lightroom or anything. It's all done on iPhoto on the Mac.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can blob out the dust spots and maybe put the contrast up a little bit, but that's it.
So there's no fiddling.
Nothing.
No filtering. Do you use filters on your cameras? As a
no.
No polarizer,
just a UV.
Just UV.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. With the suicide machine work, I do boost up the, I don't even know what it's called. Is it the highlight bar?
Ah, yes, yeah.
Boost that up a little bit just to get rid of the kind of glare and bring everything back a little bit. But that's all I do. And maybe the saturation a tiny bit. But that's it.
So you get all your exposures are pristine then, are they?
Thanks to that, anyway.
Yes.
So I may do a little bit of bracketing, you never know, one either side, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So, but thanks to that, yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. And do you do medium format work as well?
Well, all the Suicide Machine work is...
Oh, it's all medium format?
Yeah. It's either the Hasselblad 500 or the EMYR 6.
Oh, yes. I've always wanted to play with one of those.
This has been great. Because I was with the Hasselblad, I was struggling to focus at kind of 2.8.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting it right, but with the, because I was used to rangefinders anyway.
Yes.
You'll just, even in the poorest light, you'll get a sharp image. Just love rangefinders. But this has been great. Even though, for some reason, I keep getting wonky horizons. So I don't know whether there's something to do with the kind of the rangefinder, or I can't understand. So, because sometimes it's really out, you know, and I'm like, surely not. So that's why I've got this on. So I'm kind of like, yeah, that looks about right. But I still get it. So it must be something to do with the camera. So I have to sometimes straighten them in iPhoto as well.
The one thing we talked to another photographer friend of mine. Oh, he's in his mid-50s.
Yeah.
Tim Collier is a fine photographer, and he's gone back to do 5x4 stuff.
Oh wow.
He's really good at his work. Is very measured, very clean, very good work. I find that with your work. Your work is very clean. Yeah, especially the Suicide Machine. It's very clean work, you know, even though you're showing stuff which is decrepit and falling down.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's all there, isn't it? It's not wonky or anything, really.
Some of it was wonky before I straightened it. But I know what you mean. Yeah. I do take a lot of time to compose. If I see the right thing, I will try and get everything perfect before I press the shutter. Because I think we worked it out, and it costs about $150 a shot or something like that. So that comes into my head sometimes.
So there's no room for mistakes, really.
Not really, you know. It does. If sometimes I'll take a light reading with the meter, and then I'll change the shutter speed, and then I'll shoot, and I'll see that I forgot to do the aperture ring, and I'm like, ooh, you know.
Yeah. But there's a tolerance in film as well, I find. I'm more of a tolerance with film than digital to some extent.
Yeah,
I'm more of a tonal contrast, you know, your blacks and all through that sort of gamut of blacks, I find.
You can get away with a bit more with film. Yeah, especially, negative film anyway, and not so much with positive, but I don't use that. Yeah, definitely. Even if sometimes you feel like almost up to like 2 stops out, you can almost get away with it.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah. So the craft then in photography is really important to you.
Yeah, definitely. I was so used to shooting 35mm that I really wanted to do a medium format project and take my time over the shots. I was so used to snapping and zipping about with a 35. Really wanted to take my time and compose and shoot a whole body of work. And plus, I'd been shooting black and white for so long, I was determined to do it in colour. So it was out of my comfort zone a little bit, and it's coming together. The pictures are exactly of how I pictured it and wanted it to be. I was reading a lot of contemporary photographers, you know, Alex Soth, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that rubbed off on me a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I trawl through books for inspiration, And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, really.
No,
Yeah.
I'm in total agreement with you there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's finding out what other great photographers are doing and
Yeah,
how
yeah.
they see the world, you know.
Exactly. It's always just to take a little pinch of what they do and not kind of totally kind of plagiarize their work, but just take snippets here and there, and just that's what's always been done through anything creative, I suppose.
If you were in a situation where a young photographer came to you, or an aspiring photographer came to you and said, "What do I do? How do I go about it?" What would you say to them?
Well, this happened last week. I was sent a questionnaire from someone studying in the local college. I think I basically tried to talk him out of it because it was all about how do I make money? How do I make a living? And I was kind of, you're asking the wrong person, yeah. But when it came down to it, I was saying, if you've got a genuine love of photography, just keep shooting and, something will happen. Someone will see your work because, good projects, good photos always get discovered. Nothing goes hidden. There's always someone will see something and post it online. So just keep chipping away like I have all these years.
The context of that as well is the situation of photography in Wales, I suppose.
Yeah, that's
How do you? I mean, because doing Ffoton is born out of our frustration, really, about the situation in Wales, and we're a disparate lot, photographers in Wales, I find.
Yeah.
It's a lonely job anyway.
It is, yeah.
So how do you feel about this Welsh photography? Do you think there is such a thing as Welsh photography?
Well, it's definitely out there, I know so many good photographers that are Welsh. The thing is, I think things like this is all in the hands of the Arts Council, and it's up to them to promote it. And I suppose it depends who's in charge there at the moment and whether they like photography or not, Because 2 years ago they put the Diffusion Festival on. That seemed to be a great success. Everything's gone quiet since. I don't think. I think there was supposed to be another one this year, maybe, but I haven't heard anything. I belong to a collective called Documenting Britain.
Yes.
And it's Scottish based. The head honcho is Alistair Cook.
Oh yes, I know.
From Scotland, and I spoke to him in the week, and he was just saying that Scotland is going through a massive boom of just photography and photographers, and everything's photography related. So maybe it's just only a matter of time before that happens in Wales.
Well, we hope so.
Yeah,
and I because I think we need to show off what we've got here.
Yeah, definitely.
But
definitely.
I suppose that, and that's the reason, as I said, for doing Ffoton, really. Do you collaborate with anybody at all?
I've done one or two things. I collaborate sometimes with a writer called Rudy O'Neill, and we've done a few pieces for CCQ magazine.
Yeah.
We did one on the Elvis Festival, and then we did another one then on Dylan Thomas walk through Swansea, which is really interesting. So, but I do collaborate, but not very often. Yeah, there might be a collaboration in the pipeline soon with Rhian Edwards, who's the poet in Bridgend.
I know Rhian.
Yeah.
She came up with me to see the boxing people up in Tylerstown.
Right. She's great, Rhian.
She is great, yeah.
Yeah, she's the poetry just blows me away, especially when you hear her do it live. It's incredible.
And a good musician as well.
Yeah, ukulele.
Yeah. So, where next?
Good question. I know that this project will kind of, if I can stretch it out another 2 years, that probably won't happen, but I'll have to start bringing it in, I suppose, in the next year and see what happens. but I've got a few ideas for new projects. I need to go and do some reconnaissance missions and test shots and see what happens, you know, and then we'll go from there and see what happens. I'd like to shoot more colour medium format, maybe 6x7 next time as opposed to 6x6. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. There's nothing solid because I'm just concentrating on the Suicide Machine at the moment. And
is that one of those never-ending projects?
Hopefully it won't be, but I got a feeling that it might be, you know. Hopefully I can just say, right, that is it, and stick to my word. We'll see. I think I can feel that I'm getting fed up of the 6x6 format.
Right.
So maybe that will kind of make me draw the line under it. Because, I don't know, sometimes it just looks the square format looks a bit iPhone-ish to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I think if I ever post a picture on maybe Facebook and it's the square, people just think it's an iPhone. Even though I've still got a BlackBerry. Honestly.
It was really interesting because I have my great friend Tim Collier, and because sometimes I think, well, styles of shooting fit your age in some respects.
Yeah.
And we both regard ourselves as dinosaurs, really. Do you regard yourself as a dinosaur because you've stuck with film?
Maybe, yeah. That's a great question. Some people just cannot understand the logic behind film. I regularly argue with a guy on Facebook, and he cannot for the life of him understand why I shoot film. He's kind of like, oh, well, spend away. You know, I really don't understand why you do it. But it helps that I never made the transition. It's not as if I went to digital and then went back to film. I've always been film. Yes.
And there's something, clockwork cameras. I love clockwork cameras.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I was in college, the first camera I was given or bought, I think I got it when I was 17, was a Zenit E. Because that was the camera you
like a house brick, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I bought a house brick 135 lens to go with it, which was wonderful for portraits. But you could drop it, you could do anything with it, really. Yeah. Fantastic tool, really, and I wish I hadn't sold it. But the one camera I wanted when I was that age was a Pentax. I really wanted a Pentax camera. So I bought one recently on eBay. I bought a K1000.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's pristine. It's as if it's never been used. And I've got the 35mm, and I will go out and shoot and see what happens, because you fall into a mindset. That's the only thing with digital. You do fall into a mindset about it, and it becomes that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you trigger happy as well. It's just kind of
when I first had a digital, it was like a machine gun.
Yeah.
And I learnt that was not the way to go about it. Really, I went back, stepped back. So, you know, when I go on a shoot now, I look for specifics now.
Otherwise, you just spend half your life editing. You just kind of like, ooh, it's difficult. You know, with this,
I'm quite jealous of those, actually.
It's purely mechanical, this one.
Yes, indeed.
And you kind of like, you take your time and then that's it. And it just feels so nice. Just like, and then that's it. One shot. Hopefully you've got the exposure right. But it just feels so nice. There's a feeling to it. You know, whenever I use a digital SLR, it just feels empty and soulless, you know, even though they do a great job practically. They can handle anything, can't they? Low light to just everything.
I guess that's, I mean, the only reason I use digital, really, I suppose, is because I work and I have to deliver stuff immediately.
Absolutely,
you know, because
fair enough.
and people expect it yesterday rather than today. You know?
Exactly, and they expect that standard of what digital is, everything completely sharp, and all the tones are perfect, and that's what they want, as a customer. So you can understand that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, a client wouldn't want you shooting something on film when you're just like, well, I'll get back to you in 10 days. Hopefully they'll be all right. And they're kind of like, what? So yeah, digital is a great tool.
Education, photography education. Where do you think it's at in Wales? I mean, do young kids should they go to college? Should they follow somebody? Should they be an assistant to somebody? Or what do you think is the best plan, really, education-wise?
Education. Well, I suppose for contacts and absolute, practical knowledge, then to kind of assist someone is just the most valuable lesson you can learn, I suppose. But when it comes down to the courses and things, we've got the Newport documentary course, it's highly acclaimed. The photojournalism course in Cardiff and the one in Swansea, I think they're both pretty good. So there seems to be a lot going on, but I really don't think Wales are making the most of that. It's just, we've got a great gallery with photo gallery, and they don't seem to be making the most of Wales and Welsh photographers. They're not interested at all, which is, I don't like to rubbish them. They've held some great shows there, but surely, they do run education programs as well, which is great. Darkroom courses and maybe Photoshop courses. But with all the stuff that's going on in Wales, you'd think that someone would just basically make the most of it, because that documentary course is a huge. It's churned out so many well-known names, unbelievable. David Hearn started it off. He still lives in Wales.
Yeah, indeed, he does live in Monmouth. Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know, because I've never gone through the photography education system. I don't really know. You can always self-teach yourself, but it's difficult. You don't pick up the tricks of the trade, and it's always great to have a mentor. I would have given anything to have some sort of mentor. So perhaps somebody, a young photographer or an aspiring photographer, should latch on to somebody who knows their stuff, really. Yeah, I would say that would be, and just pick up some of the invaluable knowledge that they've got, without spending 10 years trying to work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes I'm picking up things now and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I'd known this 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Just things that have eluded me for obvious things sometimes, because I've never really been able to latch onto someone. And I suppose kind of documentary photographers are quite few and far between, really, aren't they?
I think one of the reasons for that is that, I mean, when you think about what Life magazine used to do, they had a set of photographers, but they used to go off for 6 months to do one project.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
And they embedded themselves with families and in communities.
Yeah.
So that element has disappeared because of the immediacy of the digital age, I suppose.
Then and now, it's just they need everything now.
Yeah.
So
you kind of you are emulating them, really.
Yeah.
In many respects, because it's that looking at the bigger picture, but seeing the small, but seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, I see. But everything's in place in Wales for great photography education, but none of it seems to be staying in Wales. I think, you know, the kids come from other parts of the UK, do the course, take everything with them back out of Wales.
Do you keep diaries, sketchbooks, journals at all?
No, I don't. I very rarely write anything down, which is probably but saying that, I've got a little book which I do scribble some things. It's like a little scrapbook, but I don't really fill it out that often. But I suppose there is something. But you know, I never write down exposure times and things like that ever.
No, neither do I.
No.
I've been tempted to write a blog and stuff, but I never have. Since you've never been part of the education system, and did you? I mean, when you were in school, I mean, did photography ever sort of?
Oh, I was a bit of a tearaway in school, to tell the truth. I left school without any GCSEs at 15, and you know, I didn't do anything. I just went to work for my dad for a bit, and basically totally fluffed school. And it's only in hindsight you think, oh God, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? But no, it was.
But photography might never have happened if you'd done
Well,
that.
you never know. Yeah, exactly. You know, I obviously fell into place when skateboarding was around. And my brother, you know, he's a big part of introducing me to photography, I suppose.
Is he older than you?
Yeah, he's like 9 years older than me. So all credit to him. I always kind of every interview I've done, I've always said that he's the one that kind of introduced me to it, and he was really.
So he's your mentor then.
I suppose, yeah. Even though we're very different, and all we do is bicker about photography, because you know, what we do is completely different. But there is that common bond, you know, photography.
Well, and the common bond of learning how to use a camera.
Yeah. Because we both did that course together as well. So
right.
That was. He kind of coaxed me to go to that. So if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have done that even. So because I was like pretty much anti-education, anti-establishment. It was, I'm not doing any of that, you know. I'm a skateboarder. Ooh. So
are you a political beast when it comes to your photography?
I suppose, yeah. Especially with this suicide machine project, I think behind it all is a real dig at the council. Because I've seen what my father's got a shop in town, and the council have always acted like an enemy to business owners in town. Constantly, you know, years ago he was constantly at war with them. So that's probably where I get it from. I see everything they do, which is kind of negative. So I suppose it is directed at them in a way.
Yeah.
You know, because
it'd be interesting when you're my age, 20 years time, looking back, because I look back at stuff. Or you're looking back at stuff that was done in the 70s and the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
And you can see, the world appears to be a different place, and I wished I'd done more photography then.
Right, yeah, I can imagine that, yeah, because a whole kind of different era, you know, like even down to the cars and the way they look. And
but it'd be interesting. That'll be a really good retrospective when you're older. You know,
see whether they did do anything, and because they are crushing this town, they really are, and. But they think they're doing a great job, you know.
It's homogenizing places as well. I find
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but you know, I don't get me started on them.
But you're doing it through your photography anyway.
Yeah, that it feels good.
You're making a statement.
Yeah, it feels good to do that, because you can't take them on you can ring them up and complain because they pass you through so many different departments, and so the only way to fight them is like this, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
Great. Yeah. Excellent.
hopefully they see it and take
Cool.
note.
Great. Okay.